to beware of spoilers. I am Adam. It is Sunday morning, and I said I was going to continue doing DMZ, but I watched Cheaper by the Dozen last night, the new Disney Plus original, the second remake of Cheaper by the Dozen, because the original comes from, oh my god, that's an adorable goose just kind of chilling there. The original was from the 50s, and then it was remade with Steve Martin. I feel like that's the one a lot of people are familiar with. The Steve Martin one from the early 2000s with Hilary Duff and Ashton Kutcher. That's probably the one most people are familiar with. But this new one is from Disney Plus. I mean, the new one, quote-unquote new one, that's 20 years old now, was from Disney as well. It was the, what's it called? It was, put out in theaters. There's a big deal of a movie, and the issue is the new one. I don't remember the first one or the second. I've never seen the first one. I've never seen the original Cheaper by the Dozen. The second one, the remake with Steve Martin, I don't remember well enough to render a decision one way or the other on how good it is. I have fond memories of it, but I was 7 years old when I watched it, so I can't be like, oh, well, that was good, and say definitively that that's an accurate statement as to whether or not it's a good movie, or just a movie that me, as a 7-year-old, enjoyed, because those are two very different things. Because keep in mind, I loved Attack of the Clones as a kid, and it's one of those things where I watch it, and I'm like, oh, so what is the big deal about this? And I'm watching this new one, and the new one is kind of strange to me, in that it is very much, how do I put this diplomatically? Because here's something that you're never going to hear me complain about. And I'm someone who never complains about political agendas in movies and things like that, because a lot of times it's misguided or flat out inaccurate. This movie crosses a line into, well, this is not well executed. Because you can do a political agenda in a movie, it's just here it's not well executed. I feel like the thing is, there's a lot going on, and simultaneously nothing going on at the same time. Because they keep juxtaposing Zach Braff's character going through his situation with, with everyone else, with trying to expand his business and make more money. They keep trying to juxtapose that with, the other substantial issues that the other characters are going through. And I feel like what the other characters are going through is a lot more meaningful and a lot more interesting. And to put him, I understand why they did it, because if they put him in the movie and had him, what's what I'm looking for here, and had him just be unresponsive to the needs of his family without him leaving, then it wouldn't fit right. It would feel really weird, and it would not reflect well on him. So they need to have an excuse to have him leave. But then what ends up happening is, they have one kid who's adopted because it's his best friend and his wife died in a car accident, and the son was left behind, and he was the godparent, so he and his first wife adopted the kid. And it's okay, cool. But that kid, the kid's Indian, and the kid's being, put through the standard racist kind of things that you would expect. And it's okay, that's the thing. How ostracized Gabrielle Union is all through the movie, for being black in this primarily white community. And then it's and all the racism that goes along with that, it trivializes it. Really what this does is it trivializes these things and makes it feel less important than, because it's equalized with what we see Zach Braff going through. Zach Braff going through what he's going through should not, and you're an asshole for trying to get into this lane, seeing this traffic and being oh, I'm going to go over there. like, what Zach Braff is going through is not at all the same thing. Oh, well, they're trying to take my business and change it is not the same thing. And the fact of the matter is, they keep making it where Gabrielle Union is kind of an equal partner in it, but they keep dismissing her offhand, and it kind of becomes Zach Braff doing whatever Zach Braff wants, and it's like, well, why is that why are we okay with this? It's not well done. And I think the ultimate way you can tell this movie is misguided in what it's trying to do is the third act. And as the third act's starting, there's a scene that I'm watching, and I'm like, there can be no resolution to this story that is acceptable. They have written themselves into a corner in this scene, and there is no way they can have this resolution be acceptable. And the issue is, it's like he's late for the kid's birthday party, and the kids, the kids, like the first husband of Gabrielle Union, who has two of the kids, he shows up because it turns out the daughter has been sleeping at her boyfriend's house, and the son is now dressed like, he's dressed like a little emo kid. And whatever, do what you will with that. But the father, when talking to Zach Braff about it, and like Zach Braff's like, I love these kids too, and he goes, yeah, but there are substantial things that you cannot address with these kids as a white guy. And he says, like, I am a MVP, a multiple-time MVP winning football player, and I still go places and get pulled, and everywhere I've ever lived, I get pulled over just for what I look like. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's a valid thing, and that is something that Zach Braff cannot deal with, and he is not equipped to deal with it, and that's his thing. And then the third act happens, and you're like, oh, alright, well, we're just gonna hand wave that away. Like, that's still a legitimate concern that the father is raising. Like, it's still a legitimate issue that's being brought up, and it's being ultimately hand waved away. I talk about it a lot on the show. I talk about it a lot more on 30-minute reviews. But performative progressivism is kind of what we're seeing a lot of. Where this idea of we can do the bare minimum and look good doing it, and then we can, count on people to watch it and appreciate it. And, like, that kind of is what this movie is. It's kind of like, when you're watching the news and you see a news report about a radio station that's facing backlash for not playing Baby It's Cold Outside. It's never because someone sat there and listened to the radio station every day during the holidays and listened to it 24/7 to be like, hey, wait a minute, where's Baby It's Cold Outside? It's always because the radio station says, we are not going to be playing Baby It's Cold Outside this year. And it's like, well, okay, you don't have to announce it. When you announce it, that's where the problem comes in. And it's like, therein lies the thing. It's like, you're not doing anything meaningful, you're just making it seem like you are. And I kind of had a feeling this movie was going to be this way very early on when they had two dogs and they're named dog puns on Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And I'm like, oh, I see where this is going. And it's one of those things where it's a shame because it's a good concept and it's a good way to update this story. Because ultimately what this is the way that this is kind of portrayed is it's like, it's a mixed family. It's what families look like. And it's like, when you watch, like, Into the Spider-Verse, and it's like, he's got, his mom and his stepdad, and it's like, this is what families look like now. They're not, the nuclear family unit, as we've been trained to believe since the 50s. And before that, it is, people break up. They split up, they get remarried, and families reform around that. And look, that's okay. That is perfectly okay. And the thing is, if you're going to do it with a mixed race family, and you're going to do with biracial kids, there's a story to be had, and there are stories to tell. Especially when you mix in the son who's not adopted, but he's adopted into the family as a result of his mother going back to rehab, which is Zach Braff's sister. there's a lot of fodder for great story there. Unfortunately, the movie doesn't do a good enough job of. It's kind of like they take, like, you can see, like, the skeleton of a good movie, and it's just not handled properly. Like, you can kind of see it, and not, you can kind of see where it's going, and see where it could go, and it could be good, but it's just not there. There's just something missing, and it's the emotional depth. And it's like, you can cut the scene up, like, and that's the thing, too. It's like, it's meant to be palatable as a kid's movie, but I don't think it is, ultimately. And I feel kind of the same way about Home Sweet Home Alone, back when that came out last year. So yeah. So, Cheer Brother doesn't, probably skip it. We'll be back with DMZ starting tomorrow for sure. DMZ Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, The Flash. I have to go back and finish The Dropout. And there was something else. Moon Knight's impending. But we also have The Lost City next week and Morbius coming up. So until then, have a great rest of your week.